Vedic astrology is one of the most profound subjects from ancient science. Can your birth chart and present planetary position influence how you sleep? In today's episode, we answer three key questions. How can Vedic astrology shine the light on your sleep? What are the different mindsets that prevent sleep? When would sleep challenges arise based on Vedic astrology? Michael Mastro is an award-winning designer, past president of Global Construction, and an expert in the art and science of Vastu Shastra. Renowned spiritual teacher Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, founder of Transcendental Meditation, asked Michael to design spiritual centers worldwide for him in the late 1970s. Michael became the leading Western expert on the art and science of Vastu Shastra and designed and built for Microsoft and Boeing during his career. Let's get started. Hey everyone, I'm Deepa, Light Functional Medicine practitioner, author and yogini, and you're listening to the Sleep Whisperer podcast, the only sleep podcast with conversations and meditations. I'm on a mission to share profoundly insightful sleep conversations with global visionaries that merge together functional medicine and ancient wisdom. Breathe in bliss through weekly guided meditations and let yourself enter the land of dreams. Together, let's unravel the pieces, get to the roots, and understand the right tools to transform your sleep completely. Through this podcast, I want you to dream the best version of yourself. It's time to regain hope and begin your sleep journey. Michael, welcome back to the Sleep Whisperer podcast. An absolute pleasure to have another conversation with you on Vedic medical astrology and sleep. And I must confess, I don't know a lot about it, but I will share a little bit about my personal story before we go into the conversation. And for those who would love to know your story, they should go back to our previous episode on Vastu, because we've spoken about your origin story into Vastu with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and so they should go back and take a listen in case they missed that beautiful episode on Vastu. But today we're talking about Vedic astrology and sleep, and I know that you have a lot to share, and of course, to make sense of all the information that we speak today, someone who's interested would need to get their birth chart done by somebody who's got good knowledge about it, like yourself, and only then will the information that we are speaking make full sense to them. But on that note, I must also add that whenever somebody does go to get their birth chart done or to get a reading done, and you advise an annual reading so that we know what is in store for us, what can we do. I think it's very important that people do understand there can be a difference in how somebody who's interpreting their chart communicates with them. And when I went to an astrologer, very well known, and I was newly married in my first marriage. And I think when he very forcefully told me that my marriage would fail, and he was very rude about it, and he got angry with me that I was not accepting it. Now, I was a young girl of just 22, and I was in no way to receive that information. So I think that how somebody shares information is important, because that fear played on my mind for the next 8 years, and I don't think I ever felt grounded or stable. Eventually, of course, that marriage did fail. I did get divorced, but that's yes, things can come true, but I think there's a way to communicate it without instilling fear into the person. And I know for sure, interacting with you, even on the previous episode, that there's a gentleness, there's a reassurance that you bring to everything that you speak about. So, I just wanted to share that in the beginning because I would love for people to avoid that fear based reading in terms of astrology. And I thought that's a good note to begin on. And of course, I would love for you to give us an overview about what is Vedic astrology, and then we can talk about the connections with sleep.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that story. And I have so many clients that come to me with similar experiences, and it's really a tragedy because Jyotish is light. It means light, it bringing the light to the darkness. And it was all these beautiful Vedic sciences like Vastu, like Ayurveda, like Jyotish. They were cognized by ancient seers who went deep into meditation, and they cognized these workings of the universe and how in Vastu the environment affects us and how the stars affects us and the planets, and what we can do for in Ayurveda to heal the body. It's all about helping us to grow and evolve and open our hearts and help other people. It's never to be instilling fear in someone. We are light beings on this planet, and we come to this planet to grow and evolve and learn through different challenges that help us grow. And these planets are there to help us learn certain things through some little challenges here or there. And when we're born, all the planets and stars are arranged a certain way in the sky for us to come into this school and learn these experiences and like I said, grow and evolve. And the purpose of everyone is life is to open our hearts and help other people. We're here to support each other. And so these experiences that we have, maybe we get some kind of illness, or we lose some finances or something. It's helping us to have compassion for other people, because if we didn't have these experiences, we wouldn't know how to be compassionate. We wouldn't know how to see, oh, someone else is having a tough time. What can I do to help them? And so really it's all about that. We are beings of light, and that light gets eclipsed by certain things that happen in our life, and the planets play a part. So astrology is our destiny. It's what we're here to do, and but that destiny can be changed by the planetary remedies. And so no one should go to an astrologer who's going to give you bad news and not give you any remedies. It should never be about bad news anyway. It should be shown to you that there may be some stress in your marriage, but here's what you can do. Here's what you can do. This planet may be affecting you in a certain way because it's weak in your chart, but here's what you can do to strengthen that planet, and that's going to bring more harmony to your relationship. You can work things out. And so it should never be, this is the way it is and you can't do anything about it. It should always be inspiring you and uplifting you, because that's the purpose of astrology. It's a roadmap to your enlightenment, to your spiritual growth, to you learning about how to utilize the gifts. Your chart shows you what you came here, what gifts you have to express to other people, how to express the love that you are. We are all love. Even people who do bad things, they're love. And to see the divinity in other people, we are divine beings of light. And the more we can see that light in other people and reflect that back to other people. That's the purpose of astrology. And so in terms of sleep, each of the planets plays a specific role in how well we're sleeping and how well we feel how rested we feel when we wake up. The moon is one of the biggest planets, and you can stop me anytime if you have a question. I'm going to ramble a little bit, because I've been doing Vedic astrology and Vedic medical astrology for many years. In fact, when I started doing Vastu, the interconnection of the Vastu and the Ayurveda is really a holistic way to look at someone who's having any kind of issue, even if it's sleep. You want to look at their environment to see what stresses can be created in the environment that is affecting their sleep. You want to look at their dosha type and their prakriti and what's going on with their constitution to see what remedies there are, and the remedies in the Vastu, and then also the chart. You know, what planets are creating stress, and what is the purpose of that stress, and how it might be affecting sleep and ultimately health and digestion and all the other things that are shown in Vedic medical astrology. So each of the planets represents a certain part of the body. Each of the houses in your astrological chart is a part of your body. So, all the way from the first house, which is the head and the body, and the second house would be, this part of the body, the throat and things like that. And then the third is the shoulders and the arms. And then you have the fourth house would be your chest and the stomach and all that. And then the fifth house, etc., is the colon, upper colon, and the sixth house would be the lower colon, and the seventh house would be like the genitals, the outer genitals, and then eighth house is the inner genitals, and then ninth house would be the hips, and 10th house would be the knees, and 11th house would be the calves and the ankles, and then all the way to the 12th house is your feet. And then each of the planets is a different organ in the body. So moon plays a big role, because the moon is waxing and waning, and then you have the full moon, and the moon is related to the mind and the emotions. And so if the moon happens to be weak or debilitated, or it's transiting through one of the challenging houses, the Dusthana houses, 6th, 8th, or the 12th house, then it can definitely affect the quality of your sleep. And we all go through these lunar cycles. And so learning to work with the moon and strengthen that moon in your chart by some simple remedies. Colors are associated with the planets. You can wear a certain color, or have pillows and bed sheets in a certain color to strengthen a weak planet in your chart. And then want to transform the malefics, which Rahu and Ketu, they cause these eclipses in our life, and create some challenges again for us to grow, and definitely affect our sleep. So Ketu is our past karma, and it's wanting us to feel regret for actions in our past. And the mind can sometimes get in a loop of thinking about things that are, feeling regretful about things in the past. And so learning to always use this particular mantra I love, it's called Ho'oponopono. And so this is, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, to yourself. Whenever some negative thoughts come, whenever some stress in a relationship comes, or difficulties in your life, this mantra is very powerful. And you can also use it if you're having trouble falling asleep, because it's that Ketu, that Saturn and Ketu energy that creates that fear, that doubt, that regret, and that mind keeps, oh, why did I do this? Why did I tell this person that thing? It's always that mind can go around and around in that pattern.
And
And that,
Michael, before you go ahead, I must ask you, when you're describing these, is it possible that even if we don't know our birth chart, but we have this tendency to be this way, we can still use these recommendations? So let's say I
absolutely.
don't have my birth chart, but I am somebody who has this worry and regret
Yes.
over what's happened. So I could still use this.
Yes, exactly, exactly. But it is very helpful to know your chart, and getting a yearly reading is a very easy way to see what's coming, what planetary energies are there, and how to utilize those planetary energies for your benefit. No matter what stressful thing comes up in your life, it's how you react to it and not respond. And when you know, this is the beauty of Vedic medical astrology. Oh, there's some affliction in my chart for this period of time, for the next month, for the next week, for this day, and it can, create a headache or some issue in the body, but it's very short lived. I see this. It's this planetary parent is there, and this is the remedy that I can do during this time to make me move more gracefully through that planetary energy. And maybe I can utilize that planetary energy to my benefit. So I each week I have a YouTube video that's on my YouTube channel called Vastu Creations, where I take a celebrity or someone who's passed away, some prominent figure in the news, and you see everybody's chart has challenges, but those people use that planetary energy to propel their career or their gift that they came here to utilize, whether they're an actor or a writer or a singer, we all have some challenges, and how we utilize that energy is very important. So it is good to get a reading, to learn that. But all these things I'm talking about with the planets, like you say, if you have this pattern, and other people, have trouble falling asleep because they're planning things for the future. That's more the Rahu kind of energy. And so anxious, oh, what's going to happen the next day? I have to do this and that, and I'm very anxious about it. And so, learning again to find a way to transform that Rahu energy.
And that
And
sounds so much like Vata people, Michael, when you describe
exactly,
that.
exactly. So Rahu is craving, and Ketu is aversion. So we all have these patterns in our life where we're trying to escape something, and that brings on the addictions, or we're we have to have this thing. The desire is so strong and all that. And those Rahu and Ketu, the quick story is how these eclipse planets came about, or they're not planets, they're nodes of the moon. They're intersection of the sun and the moon and the earth. And whenever there's some the energy of the reflection of the moon is blocked, or the light of the sun is blocked, there's some some confusion that comes. And we all have these periods, and we have a eclipse coming up. There's these eclipse cycles that happen a couple times a year, and we're in one right now. This is in November of 2022. But lots of interesting things happen on the planet and in our individual lives during eclipses. And eclipse is a particularly good time to meditate, to chant, but not do other things. And this will help you sleep better during full moons and eclipses, when the energy is very much peaking, and your emotions and your mind are very, very much, you can be agitated by these lunar cycles. So these planets all play a role, and Mercury is another planet. It is our intellect, and our intellect likes to break things apart, to criticize, not find a way to bring things together in our life. And so that's the lesson of Mercury, is learning to utilize that energy, that intellect, to bring things together, to see the positive, and not, if we have 10 positive things that happen and to us and one negative thing, what's the mind hold on to? That one negative thing, and that can keep us from falling asleep. So we learn to utilize that Mercury energy to see the good things, see the divinity in other people. Other people make mistakes. We want to forgive ourselves for our own mistakes and forgive other people. And this will help us sleep much better. But the moon energy is the biggest one. And there's a mantra, Devata mantra for the moon, which is Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Nama. So if we're having trouble falling asleep, or we wake up and can't fall back to sleep, then this, instead of counting sheep, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Namaha. This calming mantra will calm the mind and the emotions and help us fall back to sleep.
And Michael, I would like to ask you, because you've spoken a lot about moon even in our episode on Vastu. So do you see any correlation between those who have a weak moon in their birth chart and who are predominantly Vata, because they're also the kind who don't have proper sleep and they struggle a lot? And moon somehow for me reminds me of Kapha. So is there any correlation, or I would love for you to clarify that?
So it's interesting, in the intersection of Vastu and astrology, each of the planets is associated with a specific direction in your house. And so the northwest area of your house is related to the Vata energy, the air element. And that's where the moon is. The moon is the master of the northwest area. And moon is mind and emotions. And if there's the moon is weak, then the harmony in the mind and the thoughts and the speech will not be there. So it's more stressful, affects the sleep, and affects stress in relationships as well. So moon is tied to so many things: peace of mind and happiness, and depression if it's weak. So we see people, suicide, people who are having bipolar, some mental issues. It's always something about the moon and Mercury usually, and the 12th house. 12th house, 8th house also can be there. Those are the areas of the chart that we look at, and there's always remedies. So there's never a reason that we can't transform or strengthen those weak planets in our chart, or the malefic planet, the planets that can cause challenges. We don't want to strengthen, but we want to transform that energy. Like I said, these successful people, their chart's not that great, but they've utilized the planetary energies. And the way you transform a challenging planet in your chart is always by helping other people. You see the very successful people, Bill Gates, his chart is not that great. I mean, he has a lot of good things, but there's some difficult things. But he's learned to give. Everything he makes, he gives a certain percentage to help the world, to help other people. And that's why the charts become transformed. The astrology is our destiny, but we always can change that destiny by applying the planetary remedies.
And I know, Michael, I must ask you this, because I've seen this several times over when you described how you can help if you give something away. And I've seen people very close to me, in fact, who've practice this, so they give away a lot of what they earn to charity, but they also they don't do that to their own family. They don't help their own family who's in need. So they can have a sibling who's struggling, but they don't help. So how does that? For me, it's always illogical, and I'm always asking and wondering that they're helping someone, but they're not helping their own families. That's something that is, how does that work?
So there's a few things that we look at, or we could see in a chart where that's happening. So children are the significator for uh, uh, Jupiter is the significator for children in a chart, as well as the fifth house. So there can be some affliction to the fifth house, or the Jupiter is weak because it's afflicted and debilitated in old age or infant state. Many things can cause weakness, and so the remedy is to strengthen that weak Jupiter. And Jupiter, you strengthen if it's malefic, or if it's causing harm in the chart. That means it's Sagittarius. You see Sagittarius in the sixth, eighth, or the 12th house, then it becomes challenging. Then you want to help spiritual organizations to transform Jupiter. But on other account, to to strengthen Jupiter, that would be, wearing yellow colors. Yellow is and they talk about, yellow topaz, very expensive stone. We My favorite remedy is a kavash, which is a silver locket containing the devata yantras and mantras for any planet that you want to strengthen, and very economical and very easy, something you wear or you put it next to your bed. It has an influence, and it's not expensive like the stones, which you have to worry about the quality and the size and all those things. And many people, they don't have enough fingers to wear all the stones that they need from their chart. So this is an economical remedy for strengthening the planet. You can see them on our website, vastucreations.com. But it's good to get the chart read, because you want to know which planets need strengthening. You don't want to strengthen a planet that can cause some challenge for you. So yeah, Jupiter is that one that you would show up, and the fifth house, saying, and also it's a relationship between the first house and the seventh house. So the first house is the self, and the seventh house is other, your marriage, your partner. So if you have Rahu Ketu there, it's learning to balance your needs with the needs of others or your partner. And so there would show up something there that, that they'll take care of other people, but not their family. So you can see it in the chart, and there's also.
So is that still beneficial? Because for me, it's always like I'm seeing things in black and white, and I'm always looking at it as first begin with helping your family, the person
Yeah,
who's
yeah.
struggling. And is there, so is, I mean, I guess what I'm asking is that a lot of times you do see people following this, meaning they give away to charity because they've been told by somebody that it will benefit them if they give to charity. But the person who's sitting in front of them who's needing help, they don't help them. So I'm always wondering, how does that help if you are not seeing what's in front of you?
Exactly. Helping some people but not others is not going to improve your karma. You have to, wherever there's. So we are given these opportunities, and like you say, if there's an opportunity of someone right in front of you that needs your help and guidance, then that's where the planets are trying to show you, this is what you can do to improve your karma and help your sibling or your wife, or depends on. And then, once the family is helped, then you can expand that to other people as well.
And I
But yeah.
suppose how we are in harmony, and you described all these planets so beautifully in terms of what they mean, in terms of mindset and emotion. And I think that's what really I would love from any astrology, because what can we do to grow as people? What can we do to improve ourselves? And I love that you described it right at the beginning, that any challenging situations are for an opportunity for us to learn and grow. So, did we miss any of the planets? I know we haven't spoken about Rahu and um,
Rahu is the so Rahu is the craving, it's the desire, and it's obsession. It. So let's just talk about how Rahu and Ketu came into being. So there's a mythology that supports all these different sciences in the Vedas, and so Vishnu was giving out the soma, which is the immortality, uh, to all the gods, and the demon snuck in and was able to drink some of that soma. And the god said, "Hey, the demon just got this. They're going to be immortal." So Vishnu took his discus and he cut the head off of Rahu, and the head became Rahu, and the tail became Ketu. So Ketu is the past karma, and Rahu is the future karma that we're creating as we go. And Rahu is giving desire. I need more. I need more. I need this. I need more money, etc. And then K2 is the past karma is like, I don't want to do this. I'm avoiding things, and all those things.
or
And so
also not taking responsibility for mistakes we make.
exactly.
Never accepting that maybe, yes, I made a mistake, I'm sorry, or
Yeah. And it's also comes back to the self when I was talking about, every trauma in our life, we regret these things in the past. That's the Ketu, and we're feeling anxious about the future. That's the Rahu. And to balance that is, forgiving yourself, being kind to yourself, and then that will reflect as you're to other people around you. You can forgive yourself, then we create our own reality. It's the planets that are, creating the destiny, but each decision we make, each word we speak, it's attracting certain opportunities. It's the law of attraction. If we are open our heart and loving other people, that gets reflected back to us. If there's something in our self that we cannot forgive ourselves for, then we start to attract that exact same thing. Why is this happening to me? Why am I having ill health? Why am I not having enough money? That's what those thoughts attract more of that. If you feel like you're full, I have everything I need. I'm so grateful for everything I have. These planets are teaching us. If you come through life and you're grateful for each opportunity, even if it's challenging, then you get back exactly that positive experience that the planets are trying to teach us. You move through it gracefully, and then you can help other people through by having that experience, by having the compassion to know what it's like when you lose everything,
and
or
maybe,
when
Michael, we could talk a little bit about, I mean, of course, people would have to get their birth chart done, but you describe the planets. So typically, when would severe sleep challenges occur? When is it a particular phase when certain planet is strong or weak, or how does that, what have you seen?
what I see in my own chart and a lot in my clients is the sun is moving through each house every 30 days. It moves through different houses. And the sixth and the eighth and the 12th house are called the Dustana houses. So sixth house can create inner conflict, lack of peace, health issues, and it can disturb the sleep when the sun goes through that. And then when you go through the eighth house, that's the healing the past trauma, it's drama in your life, and that becomes focus, and that can disturb sleep. And then the 12th house is feeling, it's separation, it can be depression, things like that. And that when the sun moves through that house again, there's turmoil in the mind. And so those are the phases that I see. And then there's the lunar cycles. When the full moon, sometimes the mind gets so activated, it's hard to fall asleep. Everybody has this, and then, the female cycles go by that, and you see more headaches, more people in emergency during a full moon, especially during an eclipse when there's that, period of darkness. The light of the sun or the light of the moon is darkened. This all these things, these different cycles can affect our sleep. But yeah, there's these remedies that we talk about. If strengthen the moon, this will be good. And the moon can get weak if it's afflicted. There's a certain point where in your birth chart, the Rahu and Ketu, they're always going in reverse. And when the Rahu comes within 5 degrees of your natal moon, this affects the mind and emotions and the sleep. And these other planets get triggered, like Saturn. So our sleep is best when we can let go. Every experience in our life is teaching us either to hold on or let go. But what we learn in our meditation and our pranayama and yoga is nothing in this life is worth hanging on to except your smile. Everything else is lila, it's a play, it's the planets teaching us these lessons and everything. So if you become a little bit detached, then these things don't affect you as much, and you can sleep much deeper by not holding on. You see, the people that have sleep issues, they're holding on to something.
Yes.
There's a conflict in the mind, and the Mercury is activated, or they're critical about themselves or someone else, and they can't let go. The Rahu, the desire is really churning everything. I gotta have this, and what am I gonna do to get that? Or the Ketu is not letting go, not letting you forgive yourself. And Venus is all about relationships, relationship to yourself, and loving other people. And so a lot of people worry about relationships and when they can't fall asleep. And so let's see, Mars is your courage and your passion. And that when it's strong, you get courage and passion. When it's weak or afflicted, then the anger comes. Opposite of passion is anger. So anger at yourself, anger at other people, at bad situations. So we learn, Mars is teaching us patience and learning to accept people and situations as they are, because we cannot change them, but we can accept them. It's how we respond instead of reacting, in an angry way. So yeah, each of these planets is teaching us something, and each of these planets plays a role in the depth of our sleep.
And I'm always amazed, Michael, at how much synergy there is between Ayurveda, Jyotish, Vastu. I mean, it's just simply phenomenal how they
Very
come
interconnected.
together.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it would take lifetimes before there's any full understanding of all of them and how they come together. I'd love for you to, I know we're almost out of time, but could you share a little general information on for example, you mentioned full moon is the time that there's a lot of sleep disruption and mind disturb. Is there something that we could do generally irrespective of our birth chart to
Generally,
support every full moon, or I mean just to keep ourselves from, there can be that we are stable most of the month and then those few days we do get perturbed by a situation. And yes, of course, we remember all of these things, but at that moment, it's somewhere the knowledge goes out of the window.
you could keep the mantra next to your bed, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Nama. And when you're having trouble, falling asleep, or you wake up and cannot go back to sleep, um, then you can chant that mantra a few times, and or you can do some nadi shodha, breathe, alternate nostril breathing. Breathe out one side and in that same side, and then alternate back and forth, or just some deep breaths, and just, and each time that you breathe out, you let go. Whatever the thoughts are, whatever experience happened during the day, you just breathe in love and let go of fear. It's the fear. Fear is the Saturn. It's the self-doubt, the not trusting other people. It's fear, anxiety that can come when the Saturn is weak for some reason, and it can happen at different times in your life. It's not just in your birth type chart, because the transits are going on, and the Saturn can go through a weak phase, and if it's conjuncate to, or if it's moving through a difficult house, etc. So all these planets get activated, triggered at certain times. So it's good to know when that's coming and what you can do, the remedies, and that it's just going to last for a short period of time. So many people get stuck in, oh my God, this is so difficult. Is this the rest of my life? And that becomes, then the optimism goes away, and they feel like there's no hope. We need to have the hope. We need to have the trust in the divine, that things will, work out in the end.
So beautifully said, Michael. Any final things to share before we close the episode?
I just encourage everybody to know, to get a reading and start to understand your chart, because once you understand, this Jupiter's a little bit weak and it's causing me to not have good judgment, and sometimes I don't follow the rules, and it gets me into trouble. And then, it's because of that. And that's transformative in itself. It's not creating fear. It's, that's why. And here's a simple thing that I can do every day to strengthen that Jupiter, and break that pattern. So we all have these patterns, these loops that we get into. And once you understand how the planets are playing a role, then you have that opportunity to transform your life. So that's why we call it transformational Vedic astrology, or transformational Vedic medical astrology. Those are the types of astrology that I teach and do readings for. So you can learn it, help
So,
yourself. And
how can people get their birth chart done with you, Michael? And do you do that for anyone across the world?
Anyone. Yeah. All I need is the birth details. And a lot of times people are unsure, or they don't know the birth time. And so if I have 2 or 3 major events, I had a car accident this time, this date, not time, a day, just the date, or I lost my parent on a certain date, or I had a child, and if you get 3 or 4 major life events, then it's very easy to see what time that would have happened, based on, you had to be born at this hour for that to happen on that date in your life. So it's easy to do. And they can go to the website vastucreations.com. They can also email me with questions, michaelmastrovastu@gmail.com. So yes, and under services at vastucreations.com, you'll see different types of reading: yearly reading, 3-year reading, life reading. For the birth of the child, if we know the date and time, then there's a certain vibration that the earth made when that child was born. And so if we have that sound, that can be in their name or in a middle name or something written on the wall, that sound will help them a lot in their life. And then there's also the aspect, the divine aspect, whether it's Vishnu or Shiva or Lakshmi, that can also be their devata. that can help them a lot once they know that. So, and then there's readings for compatibility as well.
And of course, that is what was read by the astrologer and told to me that and my marriage is going to fail. But I feel that, I've also come across those who do readings and they tell that if you've already decided to marry somebody, don't look at the chart. Instead, focus on how you connect with each other. So, it's a bit tricky once you've already married someone if someone tells you you're not compatible, because that's a mind game for the rest of your relationship.
So the compatibility readings I do is, you know, they like this person. And so what I see is what can we do to strengthen the weaker planets in each chart so that they become more compatible, and we can foresee, oh, the attachment is strong, but then there's some other aspect that needs a little bit of strengthening. So there are exercises that they can do, and there's then taking care of your own chart that can help make people more compatible. So I only see it from that. I don't see it as oh, you should never marry this person. I would never say that to anyone. I
And
would
I,
always
sup- I suppose also, Michael, the way you are describing it, you'd probably also give guidance on how to understand the personality of the other person based on the
yes.
birth chart, so that we also relate to how do we interact and how do we accept that this person is different to how we are. And
It's a guide for compatibility. It's not a guide for, oh, this person's not a compatible. The astrology gives you the ways that you can deal with that other person's energy, and make the best of that relationship. Since the opportunity has come, there must be some reason that you're together beyond, maybe there's some planets that are saying there's going to be some stress. Every relationship takes work. Every relationship. There's no two people that are just perfect. They're never, there's never some issue that comes up. So we all need to find ways to love each other and get through the tougher times.
so true, Michael. Where can people find you again? Please remind us so that they can go there and, of course, book readings if they'd like.
VastuCreationsWithAn S.com.
Thank you, Michael, for again gracing us with your wisdom. It's always a pleasure to have conversations with you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and keep up this work of educating people about these very powerful Vedic sciences that are here to help us grow and evolve and find love in our life and express the love that we are. We are all love. We are all light. And astrology, Vastu, and Ayurveda, they're just here to make that light shine and uplift everyone else on the planet. We're all connected by earth, water, fire, air, and space. And when we find a way to balance it in our body, that energy vibrates out to other people and it helps everyone lift up.
So true, Michael. Vedic astrology is a vast science and there is a lot of confusing information out there. As you would have heard from my personal story, the art of communication from someone looking at your chart can make your life better or worse. We live in a sleep world where ancient wisdom is probably not understood and therefore dissed. Here is what I would leave you with from this episode. If this is an area that is new to you, explore it with an open mind. If you would like to have your birth chart done, do go to someone who is well reputed and also sensitive. If someone leaves you with fear, keep them far away. Finally, even without diving deeper into astrology and birth charts, you can use simple tools like chanting a mantra to calm the mind. Have a great day. This podcast is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subject matter covered in the episodes. The podcast is not acting in the capacity of a doctor or a registered dietitian and is not rendering any professional healthcare or medical service. The information in the podcast is not intended as a substitute for medical advice or services or as treatment or cure for any particular health condition. The advice and tools contained herein may not be suitable for your situation. Any medical questions regarding contraindications and cautions or any questions on whether or not to proceed with any practices provided in the show should be referred to qualified health professionals before adopting the same. The podcast specifically disclaims any responsibility for any liability, loss, risk, personal or otherwise, which may be incurred as a direct or indirect consequence of the use of information from this podcast or the application, adoption of any of the information provided.